Hi, my name is Sigmoid Function. In the following video, I will explain the components in my 72k per hour Sculk farm. Let's begin with some background research. Basically, all existing Sculk farms I can find are based on mobs dying at random timing, and Sculks are formed in random patches. The stone or basalt generator pushes in new blocks, while the player mines the front rows of Sculk on a minecart. This kind of setup is easy to make, but the efficiency is pretty low. However, there is one interesting design which proves that it is possible to make controllable 100% Sculk conversion. This design is from Rexxstone, which is probably the first design that suggests having mobs dying at a precise timing. This setup requires at least one mob dying every 10 game ticks. The trapdoor down here opens every 10 game ticks to control when the Sculk charge can spread. Also, instead of creating random patches, all mobs die on a single Sculk block, and the Sculk charges are directed to spread along this row of stone only. Based on Rexxstone's design, here I propose a more elegant solution. I found this layout pretty much by accident. Because Sculk spreads only every 2 game ticks, I was trying to use an observer chain to create 2 game tick offsets between each piston. And it surprisingly works very well. Also, I don't want to waste any mob cap. Instead of controlling Sculk spreading with a trapdoor, I choose to drop one mob every 10 game ticks. This is rather easy to do by minecarts because the mob death timing can be controlled by the frequency of sending out a minecart. Since Ilmango has previously made a working gold farm based on minecart roller coasters, I only need to make small improvements to make it usable for Sculk farming. In addition, my piston layout is also very suitable for player mining. You only need to have 2 layouts mirroring each other and turn them on with 5 game ticks apart. The player can stand in the middle, instant mine the Sculk using a hoe with silk touch and no efficiency. In every game tick, only one of the 10 pistons is fully extended, pushing the Sculk on that row to the front of the player. Meanwhile, one of the remaining row will enter a moving state because the piston on that row is scheduled to be fully extended in the next game tick. However, the player can still mine the rows behind it, since moving blocks technically have no hitbox. This pattern repeats at a cycle of 10 game ticks, and so it can reach the theoretical maximum rate of 72k per hour. Finally, you may notice that I am using zombie piglin, instead of the most common choice endermans. The reason is that endermans drop only 5 XP, but zombie piglins drop 6 to 8 because they always spawn holding a golden sword. This 1 XP less make a huge problem because Sculk charge has a probability to naturally decay. Here is the same layout but using endermans. You will notice that the conversion is not 100%. Occasionally, the last bit of stone is not converted, because the Sculk charge has decayed by 1 during spreading, and so only the first 4 bits of stone can be converted. With zombie piglins, the chance of this incomplete conversion is basically 0 because of this 1 extra XP. And so with these components, I have designed the farm as you can see from the time-lapse. In case you want to build my farm, here are more details you should know. This farm is using zombie piglins, so it should be built in the nether waste biome for the maximum efficiency. The top of the farm should be at the build limit, because I want to avoid doing spawn proofing as much as possible. This is the reason why I make the player station so high up from the basalt generators, and build a conveyor belt system to deliver the sculks. The farm has 2 blast chambers. The top one is for removing the extra sculks when the player is idle. The bottom one is to remove any unconverted basalt. For safety reason, the TNT dupers will turn on before the conveyor moves, and turn off only after the conveyor stops. The warm-up and cool-down durations are controlled by the number of items in these hoppers. I have put 16 items inside, but you can adjust it to your personal preference. Normally, the output of the conveyor belt should be purely sculk. Any unconverted basalt should be filtered by this note block sorter. It is modified from Ilmango's design. I have added an extra arm so that the basalt will be pulled down by 2 blocks instead of 1. The shriekers in the conveyor belt pushers are extremely important and you must not omit them. This is because Sculk charge can generate a Sculk sensor or shrieker on the top surface of a Sculk, if there are fewer than 2 of them within a 9x3x9 box. If any sensors or shriekers are generated in the gap of the conveyor, the whole thing will get stuck, because Sculk sensors and shriekers are not movable. And lastly, if you want to redesign this player platform, make sure you don't build anything that blocks the line of sights from the 3 alert piglins. You need to have constant line of sights from them to keep all zombie piglins being aggro to the player. These trapdoors are exceptions, because they are invisible to the piglins. Now, let's talk about the actual rate of this farm. Under a single player mob cap, I measured an average of 99.4% efficiency. This could be partly because my computer is quite old and I can't do tick warping without lag spikes. Another possible source of error comes from the piglins pickup. In a rare situation, most piglins are all spawning on one side and none on the other side, so the minecart could be left empty and no sculk will be converted in that 10 game ticks. Currently I am relying on the tendency of piglins moving to the center of the farm because they are angry at the player, and then they will push themselves to the side with fewer piglins. However, the pushing is rather slow and there is still a very small chance to get an empty minecart. Finally, please let me know if you have any suggestions or would like to help me to test this farm more accurately. Be sure to check out the world download in the description. Hope you enjoy this video. Thanks for watching.